By Enterprise Solutions Group, what I talked about, it more defines the kind of business unit that I'm responsible for, and it refers more to the lines of businesses rather than the customer segments. Right? The customer segment enterprise is not the solution business enterprise that I refer to. Right? The customer segment enterprise, you can talk about large enterprise, you can talk about public sector. They form under what we call as the segment units for us. Right? So the segments are the global 500 customers. We've got public and Indian large enterprises, or rather the globally headquartered companies, Indian headquartered companies and the public sector, and then the mid-market and consumer and small business. Those are the 4 customer-facing segments which form part of our commercial business organization. Right? The commercial business organization is responsible for relationship with the customer, irrespective of what is the kind of product or a solution that the customer expects from us. Right? Backing them up in the next level of sales is where we have the business units, the lines of business behind them. So we have end user computing, which is desktops, laptops, handhelds, or maybe tablets, any of the other mobile devices that you're talking about, workstations included. So that's our end user computing view. Then we have Enterprise Solutions Group, which is everything to do with the data center, server, storage, networking, and what goes along with it. And that's the unit that I'm responsible for India. Third, there is software. So Quest being the lead anchor in the acquisition that we've had. That is the third, which includes our Sony Cobalt case and the other acquisitions. And the last is the services. Now it is a wide spectrum ranging from break-fix services to full-fledged managed support services and application integration, application modernization, etc., which is where many of our acquisitions like a Make and Clarity or a Pero kind of an acquisition, all of them roll up into. So the Enterprise Solutions Group that I'm responsible for takes care of data center related, enterprise related solutions at the core of the infrastructure for customer of any flavor, large enterprises, global enterprises, public sector, mid-market, all the way up to 100 employees. And in fact, we even have small businesses now looking at enterprise requirements. So even small businesses which look at services, it could be a small professional outfit, it could be a small lawyer house, it could be an architect house, but even where they buy enterprises, that is the kind of solution segment that I'm responsible for. So that's the first part. The second part is with respect to putting the solutions together. Now, as you rightly mentioned, there is a lot of capability build which is happening within Dell, and some of it is happening through organic investments and acquisitions, organic investments and improvements, and the second part is happening through acquisitions. Right? And as we go along improving our capability, we also need to increase capacity. Now, one way is to look at doing all of it yourself. Another is to look at partners to be able to do that. And with that has evolved our overall partner focus. Now, on one side, we've got the large system integrator partners whom we work with for turnkey projects where they bring a lot of value addition in terms of structuring the overall turnkey project. That's one piece. Then there is the Indian focused or the next tier system integrators whom also we work with. And the third is the global commercial channel whom we work with, who are typically everywhere from a localized system integrator towards value-added resellers. That is the whole commercial channel partner community. And distribution is a completely different one, which caters mostly to our consumer segment. Right, we do distribute enterprise products, but these are different distributors than the distribution that we focus on for consumer. So that is the evolution that you have seen in Dell over the last 3 years, where we have put partner up front. We have tried to bring a lot of focus in our approach to partners and in enabling them as well, so that not only do we have our own capability and capacity, we also deliver a lot of solutions through our partners, which lends itself to a lot of reach and a lot of last mile in various different projects. Now, if you look at the different customer segments, you would see that probably consumer is largely partner oriented, and a public sector on the other end of the spectrum, we do a lot of business through partners. Right? In large enterprises, we are improving our presence through partners, but these are happening in pockets as we are speaking, and we are picking the partners with the right kind of solution capability. For example, it is VDI, or for example, it is migration, it could be SAP migration, it could be Unix to Linux migration. We've got partners identified and we are working closely with them in structuring the entire stack and the solution to be able to deliver what the customer wants. So that's another approach. And then the third piece is largely the mid-market, which is emerging cities as well as the top tier cities. There is a lot of mid-market presence, and that's a place where we are actually going pretty aggressive with partner community. So that should probably give you a flavor of how much is direct and how much is through partner. Right? And in support of them, we have a full organization called the Global Commercial Channel, which takes care of the partner requirements. Plus, we are also beefing up our inside sales organization, both from a customer-facing sales entity, plus the technology sales entity, which I run. So we are looking at improving the capacity there to be able to deliver what is needed for the partners, so that the partner is able to talk more completely and is able to carry the breadth of our solutions more completely to customers. So firstly, I think what is happening is pretty interesting now. Over a period of time, we've built up a lot of infrastructure in India as much as with the rest of the world as well. But there is a rapid adoption of virtualization today. One is to be able to leverage the existing capacity. And second, it's pretty much the first step towards cloud. Because many customers today are looking at, is my application cloud ready? And alongside they're looking at, is it secure? That becomes the first and the 1.5th question before they can look at anything else, right? Now, if the drivers are that, if the drivers are bring your own devices, if the drivers are being able to establish a VDI for running the applications but from a centralized infrastructure, then obviously everything else follows. So the data center requirement is a derivative of exactly what do you want to deliver to your customers. And today the first thing that a CIO is looking at is what is the business value that they're delivering. No more do they buy an IT or a technology for the sake of technology. When I make an investment, what is the returns that I get for the business? How do I make the business more efficient? So, and we're beginning to see these conversations pretty prevalently in India. And in the last 5 to 7 years, and I think our CIOs are probably going leaps and bounds in being able to deliver the business value, right? And that brings us to the point what I started with, which is virtualization is becoming the first step. And as you begin to virtualize, you remove a lot of hardware from the infrastructure. And as you begin to remove some infrastructure, maybe add some more, brings the concept of consolidation. As you begin to consolidate, you also look at the fact that you've built some data centers in the past, you've made some assumptions in the past, you free up some level of capacity there, or you free up some of the data centers themselves, or some companies have acquired other companies. So there are multiple data centers of presence. I mean, this is as much applicable to Dell because we made so many acquisitions. So how do you integrate those data centers? So consolidation and what goes with the consolidation becomes the next step. Many customers, even large enterprises today, are relooking at their data center. They might have built the data centers 5, 7, 10 years back. And at that point of time, they would have made some assumptions. And as they go along, they have added capacity, they've added power and cooling equipment, they've added a lot many more compute and storage and networking devices in the data center, which are power guzzlers in some ways. So how do we go and optimize what is there in the data center? So that is becoming an important criteria today. So these are, from an infrastructure point of view, what is driving the data center purchase. And from an application point of view, like I said, is my application ready for the cloud? Am I able to enable this application on the cloud? How do I best equip this application to run on the cloud and get my people on the field to be able to leverage the company's resources? And in the process, how do I keep it secure? Because security is becoming the biggest bugbear for most of our CIOs. And then as you begin to look at it, then how do I help the businesses, whether it is through implementation of, for example, for a HANA, for example, or do I have to migrate my SAP to a newer version, or do I probably have to look at migrating towards Linux to be able to keep my application or my infrastructure that much more nimble and ready for growth or ready for the next addition. So typically you're moving back into a scale out kind of an architecture. So, and then as you marry these two, you look at hence how do you create that infrastructure where you are able to provision as the demand increases. And that is where the concept of convergence comes in, where you break down the barriers and you break down the silos and you create one converged infrastructure which is capable of scaling with scaling needs, and then you deliver the kind of provisioning of resources as may be needed by each application or each department or each initiative. And that's where we are evolving into. It's a journey. There is never a destination. So that in the process where you see some of it is applications that I need to necessarily run from my data center, and hence that gets implemented on a private cloud. Some of it you believe is probably lower intensity and it probably can be given to a public cloud and made enabled on the public cloud, and those immediately get there. And there are many that are in between where, provided the right kind of safeguards from a security point of view, data management point of view, looking at multi-tenancy in a public environment, How do you manage your resources effectively? How do you monitor your resources? Who provides the best managed service for this kind of an environment? Those are the in-between applications that need to be thought out. It could be a private, it could be public, it could be hybrid. That's the journey that we are on in India. Let me answer. So firstly, being able to manage something. Now you will do something in a manner different from the way I will do the same thing. Now that is proprietary. So where is the particular IP coming into play is what matters. You have multiple elements that constitute the stack. Are you going to introduce that level of proprietariness here, or here is what matters? Now you have a basic hardware. Is it proprietary or is it open? And then you have the OS which sits on top of it. Then you have the middleware. Then you probably have a virtualization layer. Then you probably have an application layer. Then you probably have the cloud layer. Now you decide how many different layers are there and how many options do you give the customer. Now our competitors look at proprietariness here so that everything else is what they decide, not what the customer decides. Now we let the customer decide all the way up to here, and we say Dell brings the right kind of approach to be able to manage, monitor and execute all of these to your choice. So you tell us whether we are proprietary or open. So our responsibility is first to be able to deliver the right technology to the customer. Now we need to keep the customer technology aware. We need to bring forth what we have and showcase them in front of the customer and say, these are all the things that you have. Now, you take a 4-star, for example. You take a Compellent or an Equalogic, for example. You take the x86 based server, for example. For an organization which is going to grow, which begins small and which begins to grow, or which tries a particular initiative and begins to grow, there is an opportunity for you to scale out. Right? We do not say that this particular approach is the only right approach. There may be multiple approaches, but this is how you do them. Right? A Gale Technology is a company that we acquired that delivers the converged infrastructure solution. The roadmap has been shrunk because of the acquisition of that company, and they are based here in Noida. With the result, we have our active system manager, which is capable of managing a hybrid environment. Now, do I say that I will be able to manage only the Dell Blade along with the Dell network? Not necessarily. I have a layer which is capable of talking to other environments or other badged products as well, obviously given a certain compatibility. Now any technology finally has got a foundational compatibility. As long as that compatibility is there, we say that we will be able to manage that. So in that, what we say is, even if a customer has not bought a Dell server, even if a customer has not bought a certain Dell product, if provided the right kind of software, provided the right kind of management tools, the customer will be able to manage them. That really is the strength that we should be able to deliver. Now, it need not, it should not be, for example, saying that, okay, you made a choice of a server, you're stuck to us. Tomorrow I will sell you a memory at the cost of the server. Right? It's easy for us. It can enhance our margins, it can make my profit and loss look very, very nice. But is that what the customer wants? Is that really the right direction for the customer to take? We provide a choice for the customer at every layer, and we tell them, okay, you want to, let's say, for example, a hardware. It could be this Intel architecture, or it could be AMD. You want an operating system. It could be a Microsoft. It could be a Linux. It could be any other flavor of Linux that you may choose. Somebody wants a Ubuntu, somebody else wants a RHEL, and somebody wants a SUSE. Right? And then the next layer comes hypervisor. You could say that yes, we work very closely with VMware. We work very closely with Microsoft as well. And you look back at the kind of offerings that we have created. We had about a year and a half back, we launched a product called vStart. vStart is just a virtualization startup. So if a customer needs 50, 100, 200, 500, 1,000 virtual machines, you don't have to sit down and intellectualize with the customer as to what is the basic configuration needed. What we did was created a configuration. It becomes a reference architecture, and we created a shrink-wrapped, factory-optimized solution available to the customer. And we developed that capability in our factory. Even now, our Chennai factory is capable of doing a rack and stack, where you can actually stack, wire, configure, install, and the rack itself will be shipped to a customer place where you can actually pull it out, put it here, switch on and work. Right? That is the kind of capability that we bring. And in that vStart also, we have not locked in the customer to any technology. We provide variants on Microsoft and VMware. We provide variants on each and every layer. So it is ultimately at every stage a customer's choice which technology which he wants to adopt. But when asked for opinions, what we will do, we have published reference architectures. There are 29 reference architectures that we have published. Right? We go to, for example, a customer says, I'm going to use SharePoint. We will say, if for SharePoint you want to implement in this infrastructure, these are the foundation elements, and this is the testing that we have done, and this is the optimal infrastructure that we have designed for that. Likewise, if a customer says, I want to, there is a lot of adoption of unified computing as well as the Link, particularly from Microsoft. We see a lot of momentum there. Exchange at one level and Link at the other level, there is a lot of adoption. And as you see that, we say this is the reference architecture that we've created, and you could use this as a reference point. So the guidelines, the consultation ability that we have developed is basis these kind of reference architectures and tools that we have created, which makes the customer's ability to make decision that